So our speaker is Arun Antony, the founder of Nudge Lab and Gister, with a remarkable track record of leading design teams at RemNote, Razorpay, and Zynga. Arun's expertise spans fintech, gaming, and edtech, where he has built successful products and scalable design systems. His commitment to fostering startup growth has been evident in his ventures. Let's welcome the visionary who transforms ideas into impactful realities. Over to you, Arun sir.
Hello everyone. എങ്ങനെയുണ്ടായിരുന്നു ഇത്രയും നേരത്തെ സെഷൻസ്? Good. No, I heard that there are people coming from Pathanamthitta, Trivandrum, Thrissur and all. Pretty excited to see everyone here. I'm coming from Bangalore. എൻ്റെ നാട് ആലുവയാണ്. So nice. So I am also a self-taught designer. I don't have any design school background or anything. Now, what I'm going to talk about is my insights from whatever I worked in different companies, and particularly on the topic of design system. So, don't take this as the words of some sort of a master. Do your own research after listening to it. Go back home, understand everything. Some of these things might feel like slightly above your head because I might not be going into the basics of what is a design system, how to create tokens, what is a component, and all of those things. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് എൻ്റെ ഒരു ബേസിക് എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് ആണ് ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്. സോ ഐ വർക്ക്ഡ് ഇൻ few design systems. So today I am the founder of Nudge Lab. We are a product design studio in Bangalore. We do product design works, product development works. And this is all from my experience working with other product companies. In the past, I worked as a design manager in Razorpay, and I worked as a principal product designer in a US-based startup called RemNote. Then I worked with Zynga, it's a gaming company, and there are a few other startups. So I'm actually a trained engineer. I've done my engineering from QSAT. Then I joined Accenture and Deloitte as back-end engineer. So I have this engineering background and coding background. So I've come from this engineering coding background to a self-taught designer. So I hope everyone can relate to that. I'll talk a little bit about Nudge Lab and just towards the end if you have any questions. But yeah, we'll get into the session. It's going to be slightly long, but yeah, I'll make it engaging. So this is what my design system journey looks like. I started with consuming Salesforce. Now let me just ask everyone, how many of you know what is a design system or worked in a design system or used some design systems? Oh, that's quite a few. Okay. I don't know how this is going to basically impact, but let me just give you what you can expect if you work in a design system. In a real design system, not like how you go and read design systems like your material design systems or Apple's human computer interface design systems and everything. So what I'm going to discuss and focus on today's call is in the today's meeting is trying to explain my journey through these design systems which I used and contributed, and I made some terrible mistakes in some of them. I'm going to basically show you those mistakes and actually how I corrected that. That's what it is. So I started with the Salesforce design system by consuming, like everyone consumes, let's say Google's material design systems. Then I moved on to Razorpay, where I was actually, my team was the first pilot team or maybe the adoption team to basically use that particular design system, where we clearly contributed to the design system. And in RemNote, when I went there, I was setting up the design system team, primarily the design team itself. And there I was actually creating the foundations and, started the different strategies of adoptions and everything. Then in Nudge Lab, we are collaborating with few B2C and B2B companies in setting up design systems for them. Now, this is what I was saying. I'm not going to focus too much on the how-tos of creating a design systems. There are enough number of design system documentations out there, and we are all sitting in this beautiful design school. I think you should actually invest time in learning about design systems. But instead, I will be talking more about the practical approaches of building a design system, the real team dynamics which happens while building a design system, the stakeholder perspective, a brief of anatomy of a design system, and how do you measure the success. Quite a lot of things. I'll try to basically wrap it up pretty fast. Now, let me start by putting a statement out there saying that what you see in your Figma as your library, the design library, is not a design system. Why I'm saying this is like, I keep at, taking interviews of designers, and I've spoken to quite a lot of designers in the communities. I keep seeing this portfolio of colors and typographies from Figma and showcasing that, hey, this is my design system looks like. Now, unfortunately, like, it's a bit more than that. So let me just tell you what is a design system and how to start think like a design system. Now, this is what you typically see, like, if somebody is asking you to show your design systems. Now, what you see over here, these are primarily like UI kits, or maybe CSS frameworks, or in the component libraries. The problem with these are primarily disconnected systems. So, ഈ മെറ്റീരിയൽ ഇപ്പം ഞാനിപ്പോൾ ഒരു കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി പോയിട്ട് ചോദിക്കുകയാണ്, നിങ്ങൾ ഏത് ഡിസൈൻ സിസ്റ്റമാണ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്? ഓ, ഞാനൊരു ആൻഡ്രോയിഡ് ആപ്പ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, വിച്ച് ഡിസൈൻ സിസ്റ്റം am I using? Material design system. Why not any other design system, basically? So the understanding of design systems has reduced to the components that is getting used, basically on the output, basically on the visual side of things. So what I'm trying to say is these are kind of disconnected, like the UI kits that you see. UI kits are what? These are the things which helps designers to design things faster. Component libraries are for developers to basically, code reusable. These are reusable UI elements for standardizing developments. And CSS frameworks are basically reusable styles and utilities. But a combination of these things, you need to see how do you connect all these things and actually build a system. Now, what is a system? So if you want to think of design systems, you should basically think of design as a system. That's actually a slightly complex topic. ഈ system design എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞ ചില കാര്യങ്ങളുണ്ട്. Like for the developers, they learn about system designs and everything. So the concept of design as a system means, so for example, let's say this event itself is a beautiful system right now. You all actually enrolled for coming to this particular event, and a lot of systems are in play. A booking system is there. There is the team which is actually working behind the FOF team is there. They are coordinating within themselves to basically manage you guys coming here and actually doing it. Then if you want to come from, let's say, Trivandrum, you need to book your train or bus or whatever to come over here. There are lots of systems in place. Now, how do you connect all these systems to make sure that you come here, get the value that, gain the value that is heard from all these sessions and go back home? So that is, if you have that understanding of seeing things as a system, then it will be easy to even build a design system in your organization or in the product or services that you're working. Now, in my mind, there are 4 key pillars. That's what I will be going to speak about in building this design system. First and foremost, it's a cliche. Define the purpose before outputs. Obviously, you don't start any activities before defining the purpose. But in a room full of designers, if I ask what is the purpose of a design system, the key promises that you tend to give is, okay, I need design system to make things consistent. Okay, I want every buttons to look alike, the colors to be reused, the layouts to be consistent. There should be some standardizations there. And if you ask, I need to basically promote efficiency. Efficiency is a design system will reduce time in go-to-market. This is what typically the reason why product companies adopt design systems. And design system is also a way to scale faster. So for example, if you are actually building a product and if you want to do a lot of experiments to try and figure out what works and what does not work, you need a system in place to scale it and do that experiment faster. ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു എക്സ്പെരിമെൻ്റ് എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് എന്താ പറയുക, ഒരു ടിക്കറ്റ് ബുക്കിംഗ് സിസ്റ്റം ആണെങ്കിൽ അതിനകത്ത് ദർ ആർ വേരിയസ് വേസ് ഓഫ് ടിക്കറ്റ് ബുക്കിംഗ് ഈസ് ഹാപ്പനിങ് ആൻഡ് ഇഫ് യു വാണ്ട് ടു ജസ്റ്റ് എക്സ്പെരിമെൻറ്റ് 1 or 2 ഡിഫറെൻറ്റ് വേസ് ആൻഡ് സീ വിച്ച് വർക്ക്സ് ബെസ്റ്റ്. എല്ലാ ഡിസൈൻ ഫീച്ചർ ഉണ്ടാക്കുമ്പോഴും നമ്മൾ ഒരു ബട്ടൺ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പോവുക, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഫീച്ചർ കമ്പോണന്റ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പോവുക, ഒരു ഡ്രോപ്പ് ഡൗൺ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പോവുക, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ചെക്ക് ബോക്സ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു റേഡിയോ ബട്ടൺ, ഇതൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പോയി കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ the time to experiment and validate a product will take longer. So that's the primary reason actually we use design systems. Now this is actually from a value perspective, it's so promising that if I can gain all of those things, I can actually build a great product. And it's so easy to convince a design leadership or a organization founder say that if I can deliver these things by building a design system. But the truth is, and that's what I'm going to tell, the truth is it's not that easy. Now, I'll give an example from my experience working in a very well-established company like Razorpay and the learnings from that. It's nowhere actually I'm going to sell Razorpay's design system or my experience there. It's one of the, it's because of my affinity towards Razorpay, that's why I picked up that. And when I believed, I had some convention saying that, okay, what Razorpay could do it, I can reproduce in some other places. When I joined RemNote, it's a US-based startup, people primarily engineers, I thought, okay, let's go and actually implement Razorpay's way of doing design systems over there. But it terribly failed, and I'm going to tell you why it is. So in my mind as a designer, or in most of the designers' mind, a design system is basically like this. Now, we don't have a system currently, and we hire or form a team to build a design system, and then you start a design system. So that means there is a point till the time when there is no system, and then after that there is a design system. Then the work starts. Now it's time to basically scale and improve efficiency and standardize things. So for that reason, so ഇതാണ് RemNote ഒരു സംഭവമാണ്. So the founder of RemNote is a very sharp guy. He's an MIT grad. He has done PhD from MIT. So I need to basically impress myself with all my egos from working with Razorpay. And I went to him and I said, my promise is, hey, let's build this. And I said, you give me a budget, I'll hire people, and let's build this system. So this is what I did. I propose a design system, and this will help us grow this. These are the metrics that we are going to crack. And and we hired the team, and we have a team already, and we started building the components. Then the product team started utilizing the component, and the product team contribute component back to the design system. So this is what my promise looks like. This is not what it happened. ഇതായിരുന്നു എൻ്റെ പ്രോമിസ് ബേസിക്കലി RemNote. And contribution process. So contribution process is a way that you can contribute to a design system. So for example, let's say you need to standardize your colors, standardize your UI components, standardize your typography, scale, all of those things. You introduce some sort of a process, how you can contribute to it. So why contribution is required? So there will be, in bigger organizations, there are multiple teams involved in it, or multiple designers who is working in a pod. Pod is actually a collection of, let's say, an engineer, designer, product manager, or the business unit working together in achieving a task or a goal, basically. So ഈ പല ടീംസും മിക്കവാറും പരസ്പരം കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാത്ത ഒരു ടീമായിരിക്കും. ഇൻഡിപെൻഡൻ്റ് ആയിട്ട് സൈലോഡ് ആയിട്ട് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന ടീമായിരിക്കും. ദേ ഓൾ വിൽ ബി വർക്കിംഗ് ഇൻ സൈലോസ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇവർക്കൊരു കോൺട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ പ്രോസസ്സ് കൊടുത്താൽ മാത്രമേ അവർ നമുക്ക് നിങ്ങൾ എന്താ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. സോ ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ ഇപ്പോൾ Google, take an example of Google. They have products like Gmail, and they have got Google Search, and they have got, let's say, Google, and any products you think about it. And each and every components will have its own way of looking at it, solving that particular problem. But if you see the standardized, the components which is used in most of these platforms are going to be similar. The buttons are not going to be looking very different from your Gmail and any other Google product. So this happens when you basically establish a contribution process from different teams working in these different products. So then ഞാൻ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു കോൺട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ പ്രോസസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കി. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു, ഓക്കെ, ഇങ്ങനെ ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ we will actually get what everyone is working in this team, and let's do it. And I hope that I will get this. I hope that, okay, I'm getting this color tokens and your components and everything into one place in Figma, And then we are designing solutions, and as at the end of the deliverables, the product is actually be looking like beautiful like this. But what I end up doing is basically I started creating a graveyard of UI components. Now, when I set these promises, the values like efficiency, consistency, scaling, inherently adannoru value illa, basically. These are all your social media post which talks about okay, social design system use ചെയ്താൽ ഇത് കിട്ടും എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ബിലീഫിൽ നിന്നാണ് you basically go and do these things basically. But in reality, when you go, how do you create values? What does promises means? What does this efficiency? What does this consistency really means? So even at my level of experience, I'm reaching there as a principal product designer. I was challenged with this question by the founder, and I started thinking again. Now, before getting into that, now I'll just give you a context about these two teams. And this is very important to know. Wherever you're going to work next, this context of your organization and your team is going to be so super critical in understanding what you should build for the team to consume. ഞാൻ എന്തുകൊണ്ട് ഈ ടീം എന്ന് പറയാൻ കാരണം എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഡിസൈൻ സിസ്റ്റത്തിന്റെ യൂസേഴ്സ് ലൈക്ക് ഫോർ യുവർ പ്രൊഡക്റ്റ് ദ യൂസേഴ്സ് ആർ the targeted user groups. Design system users are your team members basically. The designers working in the team, the engineers working in the team, these are the users. So understanding the team is very critical. So Razorpay's design system had a design system team with 4 designers and 4 developers. And it's pretty big. If you see from conventional way of looking at design system, they have invested 8 people into a design system team. And RemNote, we had a product design team of 3 people. And there's a huge difference because we are people working to solve the product problems and also contributing to the design system. Razorpay avarku dedicated ആയിട്ടൊരു design system ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. And I was telling this, Razorpay took that decision of doing that, committing to building a design system after 6 years. So just imagine, they did a lot of validation during that process, and they took a decision, okay, now we need a system to basically standardize and scale and do things like that. I'll tell you why. And RemNote, we started thinking of forming this team in the second year. Now, Razorpay only had web-based product, even though obviously it had their Android and iOS app, but the system was primarily built for web. RemNote on the other side, we were everywhere actually. And Razorpay, by that time, they achieved the 6 years. When I left, actually, there were 60 designers in Razorpay, 65 around. So it is such a creative, mature design practice they have developed. And so it was very easy to convince. And developers also know that their product has to be very well design driven, and it has to meet a set of standards in the industry. So we had a mature design system, but RemNote on the other side, it is primarily like we had only total 15 employees, out of which 11 are engineers. So it's an engineering driven culture. Now, and Razorpay had a highly collaborative system. I mean, the design system stood as like a central repository where people are actually contributing and building things, whereas RemNote actually has a handover culture. ഈ handover culture എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ okay, ഞാനൊരു പ്രൊഡക്റ്റ് ഫീച്ചർ ഉണ്ടാക്കുകയാണ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു പ്രൊഡക്റ്റിൻ്റെ ഒരു സൊല്യൂഷൻ ചെയ്യാണ്, and if I need to basically do that happen, I basically need to hand that over to my developer, and designer's job is done. Now developer will actually take it and actually build that thing. Reason for the building this graveyard is what I was telling. Now understanding the organizational structure is one, and the reason is designers typically perceive building a design system limits the creativity. I don't want to basically build things which is standardized or industrialized or mechanized, and I just want to basically keep creating new things. Designers focusing on Figma ignores the code implementation. Figma endanulladu, they believe that the developers will take it and actually they will implement it. But that is not the truth. What works in Figma does not always translate to code. So that is what developers think about the design system. We build amazing animations and amazing interfaces and interactions, but typically what you see is the developers complains it's very hard to do it. Developers resist change to establish workflow. I mean, they don't want to change their way of doing things. So then there are other things like, the team avoids people are lazy, people are too many things to do in their life, they don't want to learn anything new things, follow a new process and all of those things. Product team prioritizes the business goals over system adoption, and the leadership worries that it has too many things to do, so it will impact our production timeline, so let's not do a system right now. ഇതൊക്കെയായിരുന്നു RemNote worries basically. So it was primarily the team was neglecting it and instead of adopting that. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever works in an established system, let's say you go and actually see any design systems which is basically established, you will see that one size fit all solutions won't actually work. And I'm going to basically give you why it is. I know that most of you have not worked in a design system. It will be quite difficult to understand what is actually happening there. But I wish everyone works in the design system soon. There you will actually get these sort of problems, and this is how you should actually look into it. Now, the second pillar of design system is you should definitely solve for context. Context here is, what is your relationship with your engineers? What is your relationship with you and your stakeholders and their roadmaps in the product? Ee context koduttal matramana they will feel connected, or they will actually, the entire team will start connected to building a design system. So now let's revisit the promises. Consistency. Consistency is only valuable if we standardize things to a good level of quality, not rules and checklists. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ RemNote ചെയ്തെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അവിടെ കുറച്ച് റൂൾസ് ആൻഡ് റെഗുലേഷൻസും ചെക്ക്ലിസ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞു, ലൈക്ക് if you follow these things you will get that, because that's what I thought Razorpay is doing it. But that will not bring consistency. Efficiency. Only if you look for meaningful output for your users of the product, then only you will actually produce efficiency in the team using this design system. Scaling. Scaling thing is only valuable if you are actually worth reproducing. What do you mean by reproducing? Design system reproducing എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ഇപ്പം ഞാനൊരു ബട്ടൺ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയെങ്കിൽ that button has to be solving for all the buttons in the system. So it has to be worth reproducing, means designers has to reuse that button, developers has to reuse that solution, the component that is coded, rather than creating a new one. So this revisiting of the promise helps me realize that accessing the organizational readiness, ഇപ്പം നിങ്ങളുടെ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ അതിന് റെഡി അല്ല, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ ടീമിന് റെഡി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ എന്തൊരു ഉണ്ടാക്കിയാലും മേ ബി യു വിൽ ക്രിയേറ്റ് എ പോർട്ട്ഫോളിയോ ഐറ്റം. ബേസിക്കലി നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു പോർട്ട്ഫോളിയോയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടി ഒരു ഡിസൈൻ സിസ്റ്റം കാണിക്കാൻ, അതാണ് മിക്കതും ഞാൻ കാണുന്നത്. I mean many designers actually build their portfolios with lots of items of color slabs and your typographies, thinking that I have worked on design system, but that won't really solve the real problem. So if you understand your organizational readiness of accepting a design system, it makes sense. And evaluate if the new system is really required and it will deliver the value before you do it. People you hear, if you have worked in building products, you will soon understand that this is very similar to validating a product idea. You want to bring a product to the market, and you want to basically introduce some sort of strategy to adopt the early adopters. ഈ ഒരു സ്ട്രാറ്റജി തന്നെയാണ് for the users in the team who wanted to use a design system, you have to employ. Now, I'll go fast. I have already discussed this. You need to understand your team dynamics between designers and engineers, your current state of affairs of organization, and you need to also understand whether your product is in a situation to adopt a design system. എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ഇപ്പം ഞാനൊരു പ്രൊഡക്റ്റ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുവാണ്, ആ പ്രൊഡക്റ്റ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന തുടക്കത്തിലേ ഞാൻ ഡിസൈൻ സിസ്റ്റം ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പോയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ആ പ്രൊഡക്റ്റ് മാർക്കറ്റ് ഫിറ്റ് ഇല്ലാണ്ട് ഞാൻ ആ പ്രൊഡക്റ്റിലേക്ക് ഡിസൈൻ സിസ്റ്റം ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പോയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, അവിടെ it will fail, because you will spend lot of your design energy, engineering energy in building some system which is not yet validated. So first try to understand whether your product is ready. You have the readiness to basically get that. So ഈ divergent convergence എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, it's a design school terms, it's basically a double diamond structure, whether you're ready for diverging or exploring or innovating or whatever, and converging is more like if you are fit and if you have a great product market fit product, then now you're ready for actually solving for a design system. Now, what are the activities once you realize you are ready for the design system? The kind of activities that you should do is simple, like building a product. It's basically do your user research with the users in the team, your designers, developers, and also the end users, and try to understand what are their expectations basically. Auditing is basically about understanding what are the discrepancies which is happening. ഇവിടെ ഒരു കോമ്പണന്റ് തന്നെ പല രീതിയിൽ യൂസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടാവാം. ഇതൊക്കെ ഒന്ന് ഓഡിറ്റ് ചെയ്യുക and try to understand what the discrepancies in the patterns and everything. Then show your work basically. Why you have to, as a designer, if you're working in a team, always evangelize showing your work to other stakeholders, non-designers. That is the only way you can actually bring collaboration with other stakeholders. So show your work. You don't try to basically standardize things and impose things to a developer saying that, okay, now start using this system. Now, in many organizations and many teams, there will be official and unofficial cultures. Official, unofficial, organizations we do user research, we do this, that, and all, usability testing or maybe accessibility testing and everything. Try to understand in real what is happening. Avade endengilum fault undo. Idea is to basically understand what's really going through versus what you want to build. Then recognize the existing systems. I'll go a little deeper into it. Engage with the leadership. Now, once you basically understand your basic idea about what your organizational readiness and your team readiness, your team personas, and you basically understand how this particular team will use if I am basically doing it, start with a pilot. Now, I was lucky enough to basically be part of a pilot for a design system. Now, there are many factors design system designers consider when they are actually building a pilot. എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് കോമൺ കോമ്പണൻസ് ആ പൈലറ്റിനകത്ത് വേണ്ടേ, സോ ദാറ്റ് the same components can be reused in another feature or another product or things like that. Potential for common pattern, UX patterns or interaction patterns. Highlight value element. So if there is any high critical value element which is going to impact the revenue, be critical whether I should change that in the design system or do it later. For example, Razorpay payment gateway is one of a legacy product. That's the first product that they launched and they started kind of scale, and they are very successful now. But they are the last team to adopt this design system because they were very cautious about changing the underlying architectures, the design code, and everything of this thing before getting heard and validated from the other teams. Razorpay itself have, let's say, a lot of products and lot of teams working in it. My product was actually, it was called Razorpay Capital. It was giving credit to businesses. And we were actually in a 0 to 1 phase. And they picked our team because we can do mistakes. We can still be validated. So, angane eduthu kazhinja matramana, if you are actually trying to change something which is already working, even their stakeholders or the directors or the people in the leadership team, they will stop it. They will say that it's high value thing, so you should be very cautious of basically making a design system pilot on that. Technical feasibility, available champion, and this is something which I learned the hard way. It's not about creating a system. In a larger organizations, you need to evangelize. It's all about you speaking more about design, what you did, what you achieved, what is the impact it created. Even if it is actually very nice and looking nice, and it's something which is showcasey, you can actually showcase and get claps, and you just do it. If there is a leadership meeting or if there is a all hands meeting which is happening in a company, get some 5 minutes or 10 minutes time in that to showcase some latest releases which happened or nice interaction that you created in your product or feature. It's very important to introduce and evangelize design in your organization. You understand your pilot should not actually have scope which is like too huge. It should be like a very small scope thing. Technical independence and marketing potentials. Now, from this, coming back to the RemNote thing, so this is all saying that I understood the readiness of RemNote. They have a very strong engineering team. Then I started redefining the contribution model. Instead of me saying that I'm going to give you 10 components and you guys are going to code it and actually we will apply it on the products, I said, I'm going to release a roadmap saying that this month we are going to attack on carousels or accordions, which are very low hanging, which is not critical to the major thing, but let's actually start with it. And They have to agree to it, and they come onto a forum or a call and say that, okay, what are you doing? Just show me your initial designs. We will showcase the initial designs. There will be feedbacks, there will be suggestions that will be incorporated. Iterations goes on, and the developer said, okay, this is a low-hanging fruit. Even if you make this change, it's not going to be a huge thing. Let's actually do it. So slowly you are actually adopting people to start using a new system. Then you publish that thing and standardize it. The third point which I want to stress is you have to recognize the systems you already have. Now, what does that mean? ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ ഒരു സ്ലൈഡാണ്. സോ you thought that you need to have a design system team or somebody to work on a design system, and then you produce a design system, then you will start fulfilling your promises. What I have learned is you already have a system. So what are these systems? So just quickly going through it. So these systems are primarily the way designers set up your core UI patterns or style guides and all of those things. That's also a pattern. The only thing is that's unofficial. It's not intentional. It's here and there. Everybody has their own versions of things for the brand. There are multiple local design libraries if there are multiple teams involved in it. There is a design to dev handover. Let's say me interacting with my developers will be different from a different designer and a different team interacting with a different designer. So there is a fragmented front-end code. So if there are multiple developers working in multiple teams, they all will have different ways of actually pushing the code and actually getting it as an output. So this is all of the practical ways how it is happening. Reusing of components and all mostly will happen, but there will be here, and if a product manager says that, okay, let's make this in a slightly different way so that it will attract the users and get more adoption. And that change will actually help the product grow. And it happens when there is no design system. So, but there are systems in place, and then there are inconsistent implementations. So if you understand that these are the systems, then what happens is, like, this is what I was trying to visualize, like what is this official and unofficial systems looks like. The one which is there in the yellow, these are the new system that you are proposing. But you need to understand there are behavioral and strong pattern in your organization which is so rooted over a period of time, and it's very hard to basically overgrow that particular old systems. So this is what it happened in RemNote. It was very difficult to basically overcome the existing behaviors, how people were solving things, and the new system was actually just finding it difficult to basically grow. So understanding this will make you realize this, that we have to engage with your existing unofficial design system to cultivate one that serves us better. So it's not about building a design system, it's about changing that. Whatever systems that you have, you slowly change that to grow into an established design system. It's not like starting from scratch. Okay, today onwards we are going to start in the adopting the new design system. Now again, these are a few things which I'll rush it. When you're auditing and when you're understanding the systems with designers, talk to multiple designers, understand their workflows, talk to developers, understand their workflows, and ultimately this is what you will get across the team when you talk through it. And it is not purely design stuff. You will talk about your API decisions which is going through, and I've seen designers talking to engineers in a way to understand and help, and developers talking to designers to understand how it helps them to standardize things. If Figma right side or component side props undaville, you will uncheck and check if a button like, okay, the active state, what is the state, whether it is hovering when there can state to area. Let's say if there is a drop down, what are the different things, there has to be a shortcut over there. Props now on the Figma. Now, it's the most critical decision that we took in RemNote is the props that you see in Figma has to be the props in your GitHub. The GitHub and the code should not actually accept any variables which is outside of that. So this is not easy. I mean, it's very difficult for a new designer to basically understand this concept. But until and unless you establish that, you get your knowledge of actually, you need to work together to build a system and bring it more connected. This then helps. So like I said, changing this, it's not about building a new design system, it's about changing them. Now, what does that mean is like, different systems work together to create best practices for using your design system. It's about changing the mindsets and behaviors by introducing the, to establish the promises. I was trying to basically show how it was there in RemNote when I was actually building it and how it failed, and I wanted to basically show how it changed. To summarize, so the design system process, it's a flow chart. It's a process of actually connecting and distributing the work. Now, I'll just go through it very quickly. If I had the access to browser, I could have shown you how it works, but that for a later time. So RFC എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു സാധനം, like the document that you see, which is basically what developers basically create, open a requirement for a comment for a component. ഇപ്പോൾ നമുക്കിപ്പോൾ ഒരു ബട്ടൺ ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യണം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഡ്രോപ്പ് ഡൗൺ ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യണം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ചെക്ക് ബോക്സ് ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യണം, ഒരു അക്കോർഡിന് ഉണ്ടാക്കണം. This is how it all starts. A request is made, then everybody actually contributes their thoughts from different teams, their different perspectives, their different use cases, how this particular thing is going to solve for them in their product. ഇതെല്ലാം പറഞ്ഞ, then they basically get into an agreement how it has to basically made. Then you go for your typical product design cycle of iterating, building, publishing and things. Then you have your QA and your testing and all of those things. Then finally you publish. So this is a simple step you do for making a change to even a small style, small design UI component. So I was actually surprised when I had to do all of those things. It's such a boring job. I mean, building a design system is not at all an exciting thing. It's such a boring job. But it's that boring thing actually which actually makes the product standardized and look so great. So I have my friend who joined along with me, who's working in the design system. He's still there in Razorpay, and it took almost like 4 years for him to stabilize that system. And RemNote, when I left, it was just the foundational things. We just standardized the tokens. We just took some design decisions. What are the different tokens to be used and the different components to be used. Now, I am a big user of that product. It's a note-taking app. RemNote is a note-taking app, and I'm a huge note-taker. And I see that evolving, and it's such a beauty that, that product which I created, the foundation, things are actually coming live. And it took almost like 2 years to even see that after even creating the foundation. Such a boring job, but that's how it takes to build a strong product, basically. There are a few things, I don't know how much time I have got. I'll just quickly, this is a cliche again. This is not supposed to be covered, but if you're interested in the design systems, or if you are showcasing design systems in your portfolio, there are a few things which you should actually note. ഞാൻ എന്ത് ഡിസൈൻ സിസ്റ്റത്തിൽ ചെയ്തു എന്ന് ചോദിക്കുമ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ പറയേണ്ട കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങളും നിങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യേണ്ട കാര്യങ്ങളും ഞാൻ കാണിച്ചു തരാം, ലൈക്ക് ദ സക്സസ് മെട്രിക്സ്. Now, how do you validate, how do you measure the success is by talking to the team, understanding how that system became more productive, what it ended up doing versus what it was doing. So you do all these validation promises, and you get this. Now, I'll show you this. This is basically a plugin which Figma has created to check the coverage of the new design system on any new features that they are building or on the existing features. So this plugin will tell you that, okay, this particular frame is using these many components or styles or tokens, but these things are missing. And when we started the pilot, it was just 20%, in the sense like it's okay to ship a product with 20% new design system components and tokens. But when I was about to leave, it scaled up to 70 to 80%. Until and unless your feature is meeting a benchmark of 70-80% of new design component and token fulfillment, it's not going to basically get shipped. So that's how it grew. Second thing is actually there was a Chrome extension with the developers made. These are all actually done by designers and developers, actually understanding their own problem, how to solve. They internalize that product requirement and actually solve for themselves, basically. So it's a product within the organization, basically. A developer made a Chrome extension just to see the coverage of design system used in the website. Then there was actually the component usage categorization. So we have primarily two different products. One is business banking and payment dashboard. So adinathu I mean, etra buttons, pudhiya design system, and the boxes, the text changes, the headings, links. These are all getting tracked actually and to see the impact of this particular design system. Then this is also something similar. The props, like I said, the props, how the primary button, secondary button, the hover states, all of those things. Idakke track here that they understand it, because there was an interesting conversation with Shashank, who is the founder. In that conversation, he asked, how do I know the designers and developers are using this particular design system? Ellavarum, like, 2-3 years aayittu ningal work cheyidondirikka, you show me a proof that people are using it. So this is how we showed it. So these are the last ending slides. In designer's mind, like I said, it's not about starting a design system by defining your components, tokens, and everything. It's first you start building your products, and out of the product you get the various opportunities to understand what are the things to basically convert into a new system. And then you extract that and build a contribution model. And finally, you establish that system. Then you request for a funding. Not like you first request for a funding and actually, get an approval and do all of those things. So that's what I would suggest you should be doing, just the ulta. In short, I'm saying start with design system, or was the component library. The typical way that we think that we are doing is the wrong way of doing it. Simple way of doing is start with the product to output a design system. So this is the summary. These are the 4 pillars which I see is useful if you want to build a design system. Yep, that's it.